Wait, just stop for a second. It's been 3 years and 10 days, and finally, Beef Season 2 is back. But the real question is, was it worth the wait? Or did it return just to break something inside us? Before starting interesting video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss any trailer or episode update of this drama. Because this season, it's not loud like before. It's not just chaos, shouting, or explosive moments. No, this time, it's quieter, deeper, more uncomfortable. It slowly gets into your mind and makes you question something very simple, yet very dangerous. What is love, really? Let's think about it together. Season 1 was about rage, conflict, ego. But Season 2? This is about relationships. About what happens after the love story begins. About what happens when time passes, when people change, when feelings fade, or maybe transform. And this is where we meet two couples, living two completely different realities, yet somehow heading toward the same fate. On one side, we have Austin and Ashley, young, engaged, full of dreams. They talk about the future, family, happiness. Everything looks perfect, almost too perfect. But let me ask you something. When something looks perfect, is it actually real, or just a performance? Because on the other side, we have Josh and Lindsay, married, wealthy, established. From the outside, they have everything. Money, status, a beautiful home, the kind of life people dream about. But inside, they're empty, they're distant, they're lost. And here's the scary part. They don't even realize how far they've drifted. Or maybe they do, but they're too afraid to admit it. They don't love each other the way they used to. In fact, they barely connect anymore. The only thing keeping them together isn't love, it's habit, it's comfort, it's image. And that's where the show hits hard. Because how many people in real life are living exactly like this? Staying together, not because they're happy, but because it's easier than leaving? Now here's where things get darker. Josh and Lindsay's relationship isn't just broken, it's slowly dying. They don't communicate. They don't feel. They don't even fight properly anymore. Everything becomes routine until one moment changes everything. Their dog, Burberry, dies. Now you might think it's just a dog, right? No, it was the last emotional connection they had. And when that's gone, there's nothing left. That's when the truth finally surfaces. They're heading for divorce. But here's the twist. At the same time, Austin and Ashley are slowly becoming them. Yes, the same couple that once looked perfect is now walking the same path of destruction. Why? Because Ashley begins to change. Or maybe she reveals who she really is. She becomes controlling, insecure, paranoid. She checks Austin's phone. She doesn't trust him. She creates problems where none exist. And you start wondering, is this love or is this fear? Because Ashley doesn't actually love Austin in the pure sense. She fears losing him. She fears being alone. And when fear enters a relationship, love slowly suffocates. But why is she like this? This is where the show becomes deeply human. Ashley grew up without stability, broken family, no emotional support, no real connection. So now, she tries to build a perfect life, but from a place of fear, not love. And that changes everything. Meanwhile, Austin, he's different. He's kind, too kind. He avoids conflict. He wants to make everyone happy. He struggles to say no. Sounds like a good person, right? But here's the problem. Too much kindness can destroy you, because when you try to please everyone, you lose yourself. And this becomes very clear in one simple moment. Ashley asks for something small, a red drink, and Austin gives it to someone else instead just because he didn't want to upset them. It seems minor, but it reveals everything. He doesn't stand his ground. He doesn't choose. He just avoids discomfort. And that becomes his biggest weakness. Now here's where things take a turn. Austin meets someone else, Aniza, and suddenly everything feels different. This isn't forced. This isn't fear. This is real, calm, honest, deep, the kind of love that doesn't need validation. It just exists. And for the first time, Austin feels something real. So now the question is, will he choose real love or the life he's already built? And this is where the story becomes intense. Because it's not just about relationships anymore. It's about power, money, control. There's a hidden truth, a secret connected to a major incident. A USB drive containing dangerous information. Something that could expose powerful people. Something that could change everything. Austin has it. And now he has a choice. Expose the truth and risk everything. Or stay silent and gain everything. Money, power, security. And Ashley becomes part of that choice. Because if he protects her, if he plays along, they get a life most people only dream of. But at what cost? This is where the show asks its biggest question. What would you choose, truth or comfort? Love or security? And just when you think Austin will finally do the right thing, he hesitates. Because deep down, he's still the same person. Afraid to hurt others. Afraid to take a stand. Afraid to lose what he has, even if what is isn't real. And this is where everything starts to collapse. Because sometimes the biggest tragedy isn't losing love. It's choosing the wrong life, knowing it's wrong. So now I'll ask you, if you were in Austin's place, would you walk away and choose real love? Or stay and live a comfortable lie? Because the ending changes everything. Now let's continue. Because everything we've talked about so far was just the setup. The real impact of Beef Season 2 doesn't hit immediately. It hits later. Quietly. When you see what those choices actually turned into. 8 years later. Just pause and imagine that. 8 years of living with a decision you made in a moment of hesitation. 8 years of waking up next to a life you chose, but maybe never truly wanted. And what do we see? Ashley is now powerful, confident, successful. She has everything she ever dreamed of. Status, authority, control. From the outside, it looks like she won. But look closer. Really look. Is she at peace? Or is she just better at hiding the chaos? And Austin? This is where it becomes painful. Because he's still there. Physically. But emotionally, he's gone. He's distant. Quiet. Almost like a shadow of who he used to be. And this is the consequence the show doesn't scream, but whispers. You can build the perfect life and still feel completely empty inside. Think back to the beginning. Austin had a choice. Real love or a comfortable illusion. Truth or stability. And he chose stability. But stability without truth is just a slow prison. Now here's the most chilling part. The mirror. The show intentionally recreates the same dynamic we saw with Josh and Lindsay. Ashley now stands where Lindsay once stood, running meetings, living the perfect life. And Austin, he has become Josh, trapped in a system that looks successful, but feels meaningless. So the question becomes unavoidable. Did Austin escape the future he feared, or did he walk straight into it? Because everything he tried to avoid, he became. And this is where the show becomes brutally honest about time. Time doesn't fix relationships. Time reveals them. If something is broken, time doesn't heal it. It deepens it. Now let's go back to Josh and Lindsay. Because their story doesn't end in bitterness. It ends in something much more complex. Something more real. At some point, they realize the truth. They are no longer in love. But that doesn't mean they don't care. And this is one of the most misunderstood things about relationships. Love doesn't always disappear. It changes form. Josh and Lindsay are no longer lovers, but they are still connected. Like two people who once built something real, even if it didn't last. And then comes Josh's final decision. He takes the blame. He sacrifices himself. He goes to prison. 8 years. The same amount of time we jump forward. Now think about that. 2 different men. 2 different paths. Same amount of time. Austin spends 8 years in a life of comfort, but emotional emptiness. Josh spends 8 years in prison, but with emotional clarity. So who is actually freer? The man with money? Or the man who finally understands his truth? Because in prison, Josh doesn't break. He adapts. He survives. He becomes himself. No more pretending. No more fake life. No more illusion. And Lindsay? She moves on. She builds a new life. She has a child, something she always wanted, but never had with Josh. And here's the subtle detail that says everything. She didn't want a child with Josh. Deep down, she knew it wouldn't work. And that realization came too late. But when she finds the right life, the right environment, she becomes a version of herself she always wanted to be. Now, here's the deeper meaning behind their ending. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a happy ending, but it's honest. They didn't end up together, but they ended up understanding each other. And sometimes that's more valuable than love itself. Now, let's talk about the biggest theme of the entire season. Money, power, status. At first, it all looks desirable. Luxury, control, influence. But slowly, the show reveals something disturbing. Money doesn't fix problems. It hides them. It delays them. It dresses them up to look beautiful. But underneath, they're still there. Look at Chairwoman Park. She has everything. Power beyond imagination. But what does she do? She manipulates. She destroys. She even sacrifices people close to her. And in the end, she stands at a grave, talking about life, about death, about something money cannot touch. And that's the final truth the show leaves us with. No matter how powerful you become, you cannot escape being human. You cannot escape loss. You cannot escape regret. You cannot escape the consequences of your choices. Now let's bring everything together. This season wasn't just about relationships. It was about choices. Small ones. Quiet ones. The ones we think don't matter. Choosing comfort over truth. Choosing fear over honesty. Choosing stability over real connection. Because those small choices, they don't stay small. They grow. They shape your life. And one day, you wake up and realize you're living a life you never truly chose. So now the final question. What is love, according to this show? Is it passion? Is it sacrifice? Is it staying together no matter what? Or is it something simpler and harder at the same time? Maybe love is being honest, even when it hurts, even when it breaks things, even when it changes everything. Because without honesty, love becomes performance, routine, a beautiful lie. And Beef Season 2 makes one thing very clear. A comfortable lie will always cost you more than a painful truth. Now, let me ask you something. If you were in Austin's place, what would you choose? The life that looks perfect, or the one that feels real? Because that choice is not just his story. It's yours too.